So today we talked about Curious George at school, and we did the read aloud. If you weren't in class, then you need to go back and listen to the story on the previous slide. That will help you to figure out who the character is in our story. You can also go to the volume 101 for your big green book and turn to page 71 because you can read it on your own or with an adult. All right, so Curious George at school. We were trying to figure out who's the character, and we know that that's Curious George. But what I want you to do is tell me, what is Curious George like? Now, that doesn't mean that you tell me he's a monkey, because I know that. But I want you to tell me about the characteristics. What makes him Curious George? So when I go through my story, I can look at the pictures and read the story, and it tells me a lot of information about Curious George. First of all, I know that he has a lot of friends because I see him in different pictures, and there's always people around him, and he's always smiling. He looks like he would be a lot of fun to play with. I also see that Curious George likes to make a mess. So I could say that Curious George is messy, and I know that because he makes a mess with the paints. He also makes a mess when he's trying to clean up. But this also tells me that Curious George is very helpful. He didn't just leave his mess for somebody else to clean up, that he's willing to do the work and clean up his mess. But here, I know that he doesn't do a really good job cleaning up because he needed some help. And that's okay. Maybe he's not the best one at cleaning up, and sometimes we all need help to do things. But again, I know that Curious George is a really cool monkey because he has so many friends that are willing to help him when he has problems. So that's another characteristic that I can say Curious George has. On the assignment, I want you to tell me, what is Curious George like? That means, would you describe him messy? Would you describe him as friendly? Would you describe him as funny? And then tell me why. So I have the word because, and I want you to explain why you think that. Is there a picture here that tells you what part of the story helps you to figure out? Obviously, I'm not going to say that Curious George is a mean guy because there's nothing in the story that tells me that Curious George is mean. Just like I wouldn't say that Curious George is a bully because there's nothing in this story that tells me he is a bully. But I can say that he's a very good friend because I can see that there's so many people that want to be his friend in the story. So that's the assignment. The second slide after that then is the setting. What's the setting of the story? Remember, a setting is the time and the place of a story. So where does our story take place? Curious George at school. What do you think? Yeah, it's not a hard one, guys. There's a sentence starter. The setting is. So for the place, you'll write that one. But now, the second part is a little bit trickier. What's the time? What's the time of the story? Well, if I think about it, I know that Curious George is in school. Do I go to school at night? No. So it tells me what time of day it is. Do I need more details? Like, does it happen in the future or the past? I can't really tell in my story. Does it matter? I don't see anything that deals with Thanksgiving or the 4th of July, so I don't really know the time of year. But I do know the time of day. So when I say time, the setting is, you would obviously tell me that it's what time, not nighttime. Okay, so there's 2 slides that you're doing for this assignment.